Hey guys, I'm going to show you how to make these slider cards today using frames from your stash, and they slide up and show you a hidden message underneath. So the first one I'm going to show you is using just a flat paper frame, and then the other one I'm going to show you is how to do that using chipboard while also keeping it relatively flat. Alright, let's get started.
Now you may have noticed that these are just a simple flat card. If you wanted to, you could attach them to a card base, and that way it would give you more writing space and it would open and close just like a regular card. But I really like these because they're easy to mail and they're very lightweight, and having just a simple flat card means less bulk, and that means I can actually add more things in my envelope to send to my recipient. So to do this, I'm actually going to take a piece of cardstock and cut it down to the regular 4x6 size. And then the layer that's going to go on top, I'm just going to trim it down so that it is 1/4 of an inch smaller. So it's going to be 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. The frame for this first card is just a simple paper frame, so it lays pretty flat. So I want to give it a little bit of height and basically add like some tracks to the back of it so that I can have a card slide in and out, just like a drawer, like a dresser drawer. So to do this, I'm going to use some sticky back foam. This is a pretty thin foam, and I'm going to measure the width of the sides of my frame where the foam is going to attach to. And it ends up being about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to put this in my paper trimmer and trim it down on one side and flip it over and trim it from the other side as well. So you're going to do this very similar to if you were making a shaker card, or maybe using a frame to do a shaker pocket on the front of a card or on a journal page, something like that. And then I'm just going to stick it down and trim it with my craft knife all the way around on 3 sides, leaving the top open. Now once I've got that ready to go, I'm going to measure the inside between the 2 tracks to figure out how wide I want my paper to go that's going to slide in and out. And I'm also going to figure out what sentiment I'm going to use at the top. So I need to have sufficient space at the top of my card for the sentiment to fit on the card that's going to slide up and down and fit on the back of the card base. We're going to do that here in a minute. But first I'm going to measure, and then I'm going to eyeball it a little bit. I'm going to stick my card on there and then do a little pencil mark to see where the other side of that frame is going to be, and then I'm going to cut down my paper. And I'm just going to do a little bit of trial and error here. I'm going to cut it down, see if it fits, and on this one it actually fit pretty good in the first try. Now after I've got that trimmed down to the size that I like, I'm going to go ahead and attach my frame to my card. I'm just going to use my ATG here, and the tape is a little bit wider than the tracks on the back of that frame, so I'm just going to roll the adhesive back onto the foam. You want to make sure that you don't have any hanging over, otherwise it's going to stick to that card that you're sliding in and out. It kind of defeats the whole purpose. I'm going to attach my frame to the bottom part of my card. Remember, I want to make sure that I leave space at the top for my sentiment to be attached. I'm going to play around with a couple of pieces here, and I end up settling on some foam pieces that say yay. I really wanted to use the die cut piece that says yay, but it was just a little bit too big, and the one on my thickers page over there to the left is the same sentiment, it's just slightly scaled down, and it was a really good fit. I'm also going to play around with a couple of stickers and other things to figure out what I want to go on my sliding piece, both on top and also around the outside of the frame, and what I want to go underneath that sliding piece. Now you can actually leave the underneath completely blank so that you can add a sentiment yourself, or you can add, some sticker pieces like you'll see me do here in a little bit. So I'm spacing out my yay to figure out where I want it to go and make sure that it also lines up with the top of the frame. And then I'm going to use my baby powder to get off the sticky of the parts of the letters that overhang. Again, remember, we don't want anything on this slider piece to stick to the actual card itself. We want it to move very freely. So after I've got that all prepped, I wanted to fussy cut out these letters so that you can actually see part of the card, that rainbow card, coming from behind. So I'm just going to take my fussy cutting scissors and cut around those letters very, very carefully and making sure that I don't actually cut the foam on the letters. And then I'm going to keep putting it back in there as well to see if it lines up really well with that frame. So what I end up doing on both of the Y's is cutting parts of the cardstock down at an angle so that you don't have a rough edge sticking up above the frame. Now that the base of my card is complete, I'm going to focus on decorating it. So I'm going to pull out a little crepe paper rosette there that I had made, and it's a little bit too big, so I want to find a piece that will go in the center, and then I'm going to use that as a template to cut around. So I'm going to flip through my thickers and my cardstock stickers, and I even have some of these clear stickers. And clear stickers, are a little bit tricky because you can usually see the background through them. So I'm going to take that pink one there that's a speech bubble, and I'm going to actually attach it to the back scrap piece of my slider card that I used a while ago, just the white side. And I'm going to turn this into a circle. What I like about this collection, and what you'll see me do through a lot of these videos in this series, is take speech bubbles and cut off the speech bubble part and make them into a circle. And the fact that this collection has a bunch of circles that are all really wonky really is a blessing, because it's hard to cut in a perfect circle. So everything in this collection is wonky, so if you cut it wonky yourself, it just fits right in. It's supposed to look that way. So that takes the pressure off having to cut such a perfect circle. So I'm going to attach it to that rosette there and then just trim it down so that it doesn't hang over my slider and it doesn't hang over the side of the card too much. Now once I've got that all set, I'm just going to take to finishing off the card, adding some stickers here and there, some stars, and then after I get the outside the way that I like it, I'm going to play around with adding things to the inside. Now for the inside of the card, I really wanted to have it look like someone was talking to the recipient. So I am going to end up using one of those speech bubbles for their intended purposes. And I wanted to figure out, which character do they have in this collection that would fit in this space and also, work with the same color scheme and all that. So I found this little dog, and he was a bit big, but I figured I could kind of situate him in there so that it looks like he's peeking out from, the back of the card. So I did have to chop him up. And I did have to, trim him down even more later on. But I really like the way that this turned out. It's kind of unexpected. You lift up the slider card, and there's this little guy telling you happy birthday. Now before I show you the close-ups and the finished products, I wanted to show you how to use a chipboard frame as well. So this one doesn't need any foam because it's already pretty thick and we don't want to add any more to it. So what I'm going to show you how to do is how to use the existing structure for a slider card. So I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm going to make 2 cuts on the top of the frame. And I don't want to cut all the way through to the front, so kind of take this slow and do it a little bit at a time. But I'm going to make some cuts, and then I'm going to slowly start to peel away the backing of that chipboard. But I only want it to be on the top piece. So I pull off a piece, and then I'm going to go in and pull off another piece. And then what you're going to see is that I'm going to use my craft knife again to go back and maybe cut through another 1 or 2 layers of that chipboard and then pull that piece off. And I'm going to do that until I get down to the very, last few little layers. I don't want to pull everything off, but I want to make sure that what's left will give me enough space to slide a card in and out. We don't want it to be too bulky. And it's also going to be important, once you've pulled some of these layers off, to trim up those cuts right next to the side pieces. You want your card to slide in and out, and sometimes if you have little extra pieces of chipboard right there on the side, your card will get caught in them or it won't slide in and out as freely. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope it inspires you to create some flat cards yourself. If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I can't wait to see yours as well, so if you haven't entered the challenge, feel free to go have a look at that video. There is a challenge and a giveaway, and I hope that you'll use some of these tutorials to make some of these cards yourself to enter. I'll see you guys in the next video.